What is up, family? I hope you guys are excited for tonight. We are relaunching our World Changers podcast, Keepin It 100. Woo, 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 woo. I am excited. Super excited. I know you can see, we aren't all world changers up here today, but we got something good for y'all. I hope y'all are excited. Make sure you put in the comments where you are tuning in from. We want to know where you're tuning in from, and make sure that you interact with us. If you have anything you want to say or any questions, we will have a segment where I will look at you guys' comments if you guys have any questions, and we'll answer them. So make sure that you are staying tuned throughout this whole entire live. Are y'all ready on tonight?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Listen, I have some beautiful, amazing women up here with me today. Got a few good people from MBO in mind. Whoop, 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 whoop. And I'm excited. So for tonight, if you guys saw the flyer, the topic is what Mama said. So it's in honor of Mother's Day, and what we're doing, just pinpointing things our mother said that built us to be the people that we are, whether it was funny, whether it was something serious that really stuck with us. We're going to honor our mothers on tonight. So shout out to all the mothers that are watching all worldwide. If you're a mother, this is your early Happy Mother's Day. Your early Happy Mother's Day from MBO and My World Changers. We love you. We love you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm not going to detain the time because I'm ready to hear what everyone has to say. I'm ready. I'm excited. So the first thing I want to ask you guys is, being that we're talking about, like I said, what Mama said. Growing up, I know I'm probably like the youngest one up here, but growing up in your era, the time that you grew up in, what is something that your mother said to you, whether it was serious or something funny? What is something that she said to you, something that you always remember? Anybody?
Well, I'll start off. Mm-hmm. The first thing that I do remember, Apostle said it a couple of times, I grew your hair and I'll pull it out. So that what she mean was, don't act up and don't try to run, because if you run, I'm going to grab your hair and I'm going to jerk you back and I'm going to knock you out. So I grew your hair and I pull it out.
Wow. Just in case y'all didn't know, this is the mother she's talking about. This is her right here. That's the one that said, I grew your hair and I'll pull it out. Lord Jesus.
Well, I'll follow up the one I remember, because I'm on that seasoned end. But I'm sure a lot of you have heard this one. The one I used to hear ringing, and listen now, it wasn't for me though. Mm-hmm. I'm being the youngest, 14. It wasn't for me, but it rang in my house. Mm-hmm. And the one it was, I brought you in this world, and I'll take you out. I used to hear that, and I was a smart one. I would watch my older siblings cut up and do things they shouldn't be doing. So it wasn't ever directed to me, but that was the one I remember that stuck with me, and I used to use it on my nephews. But it was, I brought you into this world, and I'll take you out.
Screaming that on the nephew. Somebody else, what's something?
My mom used to always tell me the 7 B's, and it was books before boys because boys bring babies. And like that stuck in my mind, and I made sure I was going to go to school and do what I had to do, because she told me if I ever came home with a child, I was had to drop out of school. I couldn't go to school. I was going to be stuck in the house. She wasn't one of them babysitting grandmas. So the 7 B's.
Wow. No, I never heard that. I like that. And look at you now, attorney. Yes.
Listen, I followed the 7 B's.
I love it. I'm going to use that on Chloe. Use that on my daughter. That's a good one. I like that one.
I was kind of waiting around, but I had the soft-spoken mom. She didn't really fuss or do any kind of stuff. I always remember her saying, I just want you to be happy. That was just it. I don't care what goes on. I know you have things going on. I know you're trying to figure it out, but I just want you to be happy. That's it.
Now that's a good one. I like that. That's good, real good, heartfelt. I love that.
That's good. Okay, so my mom was just a tad bit sarcastic. So when somebody would say something and she yelled at, I won't sleep, it means she don't believe nothing you just said. And it was a little embarrassing to, go to her and say, hey, my mama do this, or to see someone say, hey, I'm gonna do this, and she yelled that out. You never wanted her to yell that out. So what that taught me is to do what you say you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Because she would hit you with that, well, I won't sleep, meaning I'm not gonna sleep. I don't believe you're gonna do it. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. Everybody's backgrounds. I love it. So, my mother said a lot of things with me growing up. But one of the things that I laugh at to this day, I believe I said it on Engage Week, when it came to school and making sure we got our grades good and stuff, she always said she wanted us to have all A's. So she said, if you get a B, B stands for beaten, because that means you can do better. So, we bought a B in the house, and she only did it because she saw us make all A honor roll for such a long time. So she's like, okay, I see that you have the capability to actually consistently be on the all A honor roll. So if I see you bring in anything less than an A, I know you're not doing your best because you're smart. So we couldn't bring a B home. So I used to grow up in school and see, kids say, oh, I got the AB honor roll. And I'm like, yeah. I try to bring that home. You happy and I'm scared. Like no, I can't do it. But I have a few of them, but I'm going to just stick with that one. I said, my mother said a lot of things. And I'm pretty sure everybody can vouch for Apostle K. To this day, Apostle K is still saying things, that I'm pretty sure is resonating with all of us. So anyone have another one that you have in mind? Or no?
She said so much. I believe all our mothers did.
Right. You said a whole lot.
But I can say this one time. I don't know if our older siblings was in the car with us. I don't know if this was this time, but I don't remember what we did, but she was in the car. She was just a fussing. So my middle sister, Kiana, she was so, Mommy was fussing, so Kiana is the clown of all of us. So while Mommy fussing, she whispered to us, put a sock in it, Jaffe. And when I tell you we laughed so hard, we got fussed at even more. We was like, we didn't even do nothing. It was not us, it was Kiana. It was Kiana's fault. And we all got fussed at. And then this the last one, and I promise I'm hushed, because I don't like to talk a lot. But I don't know if it was just me and Apostle. I think this time it was me and Apostle. And we were supposed to go somewhere. And she started preaching. And she was preaching, and she had her sermon. You should have had a listen. I don't remember what we did, but whatever we did, we should have had a listen, because she preached a whole sermon until we was not even able to go to where we're supposed to be. I think we even stayed up 12 o'clock that night getting a sermon preached. You should have had a listen. Y'all, listen. My mama off the chain. That's all I'm going to tell y'all. She off the chain for real.
I really remember that when they were going to school. Let me tell you what they do. See, look at these mamas. They get to the bus stop. They think I'm in there sleeping or whatever. They get to the bus stop, and we were in church where you couldn't wear pants and stuff. So they get to the bus stop, and some of their little friends had them some little shorts and different stuff, and they would change at the bus stop to go to school. So this morning, I was up looking out the window, and I saw them at the bus stop, and I'm calling them, and I'm like, come here. They would not come, because they know what they had on. They would not come. And so when they did finally come in there, that was my message all day. I didn't even let them go to school. Should have had a listen. I preached all day. All day. Yes.
My goodness.
I remember that.
Did y'all eat?
We did eat, but we still got preached as we was eating.
Oh, should have had a listen.
Now that's a one right there. Should have had to listen. Like, we not thinking about grammar at this point. We not thinking about English. It's just, you should have had to listen. I am cracking up. I love it. So, like I said, I'm not gonna go through the whole list because my mother, she said a lot growing up. But I think one thing, I'll say this, one thing that she still says to this day that resonates with all of us is, no response is a response. That's the first one, because she's saying, you know, basically it's better in some situations to not respond, because that actually is a response. You know, it's a response of maturity, you know, and understanding that, okay, I don't have to respond at this time. And one thing that she always, still to this day, Apostle K is a stickler about prayer, like praying all the time. Like that was when me and my siblings were little, and we were always told, you know, to pray about everything, no matter what it is, no matter how small it is, how big it is, pray about everything. So I still think about that like every day. You know, it's so, and this is going into the next segment, but it's so, you know, amazing how when growing up, how big of an impact your mother has, you know, on your life, you know, and I'm saying that because me, being in my young adult years, I'm not an older adult yet, but in my young adult years, raising my children is always like, you know, if it's something where I may not know what to do or something popped up, okay, what do? I will always think, well, my mother did this, you know, when I grew up, so I'm gonna try this and see if it works. So it's just so important to have that good motherhood and that motherly example, especially for women, men and women both, but especially for us as women. It's good to have that motherly figure in your life to give you that blueprint and that example. So, and that will take me to our next topic for tonight. We want to give you guys some good little nuggets on tonight. We want to basically talk about motherhood, again, in honor of Mother's Day, and talk about some good pointers, good tips, and really breaking down what motherhood is in itself, because I know we can easily throw that word out there, you know, call everyone of different people a mother, but really understanding what motherhood is what we're going to dive into on tonight. So I'll start off by asking the question. Before we dig into it, we have to understand what it is. So in your own definition, what do you guys think motherhood is?
I feel like it's love.
Drop mic moment.
It's just love.
To me, motherhood is a role. It's not a responsibility, actually a role.
That leads into what I believe it is. It's a role that we're chosen for. You know, the Bible tells us, before I formed you, I knew you. So if he chose an individual for a purpose, he chose the womb that he placed that individual in.
I love it. That's really good. That's good.
Well, for me, I says it's compassion and patience. Because to be a mother, you have to have patience. To be a mother, you have to be able to show compassion to your children. Because let's just be honest, some kids, I work with children for a long time, so I kind of watch, and the stuff that my mother instilled in me showed me how to become the mother that I am today, to be honest. She showed me compassion, she showed me love. Even when I was upset, she never got out of character with me. She still showed me love. She still talked to me. She still said, hey, that's not what you're supposed to do. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, yeah, we did get beatings, but it put us in a place to know that's not what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And I even teach my children, there's always consequences for the actions that you choose.
Right.
So you have to be in a position and in a place as a mother to know how to handle your children in certain situations.
Yeah.
So if you don't have compassion, I'm not going to say that you're not really knowing how to handle your children. You just got to have compassion to know how to handle certain situations.
Right.
I would say, you know, I'm an auntie. I don't have children yet, but a mother is someone who is nurturing. I think that's something anybody has, whether you have birthed children of your own yet, or, you know, if you're serving in that role to other people's children. Mothers are nurturers. They cultivate, you know, from the beginning in the womb to, you know, as their children are growing up. You know, typically, yes, fathers are super important, but I think most people, when something goes wrong, even now at 27,
Right.
I'm gonna call my mom.
Right.
I don't know what to do. Right. I'm gonna call my mama. So that's somebody that's always there, helping you to grow, but also, a part of like cultivation is pruning. So your mother helps in that process as well. So I think like Kawan was saying, yes, it's love and it's compassion, but it's also, being stern and knowing how to, discipline your children as well.
Yeah, I love it. That's good. Everybody said it's good. And I can definitely vouch what you said just now, Paige, concerning, I call my mama. I know. She said it recently. Between me and my baby sister, Keziah, we call her the most. So I know I call a lot. But also, too, now me having children, Case, first thing he wakes up in the morning, if he doesn't see me, Mom, where are you? Mom. I'm like, oh my gosh, like you can't say dad, dad, where are you? It's always mom, but it shows me even the more, like we said, we're not discrediting the fathers or anything like that, but it shows how important a mother is in the child's life, and I'm learning that myself. But for me to give a definition, pretty much what all of you guys said is what I was going to say. Motherhood to me is definitely, I like what Dr. Cheryl said, and that's kind of in line with what I was going to say. It's not really like a chore, like a responsibility. It's I call it a 24/7, type thing that you do constantly and consistently, and it's something that you definitely have to have, like you said, patience. You have to have compassion. You have to have love. You have to know when to draw back. You have to know, okay, when you can come forward and talk. Motherhood, I want to say, is complex, but when it unravels itself, it's so much different things about motherhood, So I'll just end it there, because motherhood is a lot, not in a bad way, but just think about, as Paige said, it opened my mind, like, you don't take care of a child when they come out the womb. You take care of that child while they're in your womb. So it's like, from the moment that child is conceived, it's like, okay, if you never were, I can vouch for this. When I realized that me and Pastor Mel were about to have our first child, Case, I'm like, okay, it's like this automatic instinct kicked on. I'm like, where did this come from? Like, I didn't know I knew this, I knew how to do this, I knew how to do that, but it's just like, when you know, because it's just like, I feel like it's something that God gave us to be able to do. So one thing that I did, and I'll get to the next question, but getting back to what I said when I was pregnant with Case, one thing that I did, I was a stickler about making sure that I wasn't carrying anything like from past or childhood that my children will be born into what we call a generational curse. So throughout my entire pregnancy with Case, because I said, okay, if I know, Case is fine, and I know the children after Case will be fine. So I made sure I prayed nonstop with Case in my womb. I said, God, if I have anything in me, if there's anything I'm holding on to, I do not want my children to carry my baggage. So I want to get rid of anything that I may have, so my children can grow up free. They don't have to worry about, things that mommy or daddy are battling with. They can live their own life in freedom, and they can have their own experiences to where they're not carrying my weight. That was my main thing as being a mother. I want to make sure that my children did not carry anything from my past. And I feel like that's something that as just in parents in general, I think that's something that's very important, because one thing that I realize is that children sometimes act out not because of their own issues or problems, but because of maybe what's going on at home or what's going on with the parents. They may be carrying what the parents didn't get rid of yet, because they came through the womb of that parent. So motherhood, like I said, it's just complex in itself, but in a good way. It is. You had your hand? Okay, I thought you had your hand raised. Go ahead.
I got a little something. Listen, when, listening to all of that she's saying, it took me to where it says train up a child in the way you want them to go. When they get old, they won't depart. So being in that manner, it just took me to even in the womb, and it distinguishes a mother, like separating from just a child having a baby. You know, some of them, you know, do things what they're not supposed to do and they get pregnant. But then they don't have that nurturing or that training in them to know what they need to do. And in the midst of you saying what you were saying, training him up even in the womb, when you're talking to them and when you're holding them, even if they're now out here, but you're holding them and speaking love into them, and all, it just really took me into, wow, training them up even from carrying them in your womb. It's really, moms are really, look, everybody at school, who do they call? The mom. I'm gonna call your mom. That's what they tell you. But it's just, a mom is just amazing. I'm trying to think of MOM. What needs to go with MOM? Because, yeah, it is really amazing being a mom. It is so, oh my gosh, I don't even have the word. It is really amazing. It is really, I'm gonna stop because I can't even think of the words that it is. This just fulfilling and loving and just, oh my gosh, me even being mom, grandmom, great-grandmom, it's like, God, look at this. I'm still here to see these beautiful babies, and what can I put in them, even when they run by and they're, hi, Nani. It's like, give me a hug. Oh my God, kisses. I love you. It's just, a mom is so amazing, so amazing.
Thank you. Oh.
Look, I told y'all call me up here to sing a song.
Oh my goodness.
You had to put that in there, but we kind of like need to loosen up up here or something.
You know what? Anyone else have before we move to the next part? Okay. So, talking and speaking of motherhood, now that we've gotten that understanding and definition of motherhood, knowing that it's, as Dr. Cheryl said, not just a responsibility or a chore, but a role, you know, something that you're actively doing, and not just actively doing, but being passionate in what you're doing. Because one thing too, children, I feel like children can not feel like, I know, children can feel, you know, when you are off, or if you're not feeling them, or if you're frustrated about something, children sense that and they know that. So it's about actively doing it and actively doing it happily, making sure that you're doing it from a state of being in a place of joy, and not saying, you know, oh, you know, I always got to take care of these kids, you know. And that's one thing we'll talk about too, as far as balancing in motherhood. But before we get there, I want to ask you guys, now that we have an understanding of motherhood, tell me, I want to hear everyone's stories. Even, you know, Attorney Paige over there. I know you ain't got no babies yet, but we put Attorney Paige on the stage because this is everybody's favorite auntie. Auntie Paige. All the children at MBOMI love Auntie Paige. So we thought she would have some great input because everybody loves and runs to Auntie Paige. So I want to hear what was the first, I guess I can say, first memory or first instinct when you had your children, or if you were around children, that you feel like that mother, like what was your first time where you saw that mother instinct kicked in? Like what did it feel like? So I want everybody to kind of online kind of get that understanding of what motherhood is and what it feels like and what it looks like. So if you could give me like that, if you could go back in your mind, think about, you know, when did that motherhood really kick in for you?
For me, it kicked in immediately simply because it's no longer just about me. And that's, you know, emotionally, you know, that's mentally, but that's also physically. You can't leave the house with just your phone, your purse no more. You got to leave the house with all these items. You got to make sure that not only you got to have the big diaper bag, you got to have everything in the diaper bag. When they're small babies, you know, you got to have their milk, you got to have diapers. Even when they get older, you better not leave without snacks. So if these are all things where that proof to it's no longer just about you.
Yeah.
You know, when you wake up in the morning and you may be tired, but it's not about you.
Yeah.
Going to sleep at night, you may be tired, might want to get in bed early, but it's not about you. And
Right.
it's a reminder constantly throughout the day.
Yeah, that's good. Love it, love it.
Well, for me, it actually started when I was younger. We had my niece and nephew at the house with us. So it was one time I was in the 6th grade and my nephew, I think Kiera was in the 5K or something like that in elementary school with me. I used to have to go get him from his teacher. We used to have to walk home together. I had to make sure that he had a snack because mom had to go to work. Sister, they all had to do what they needed to do. So I was the one to get him. We walk home from school. I make sure you had your snack. I make sure that you had homework done. And it kind of kicked in then. And as I was doing it, I kept saying, one day I might have kids. And when I have kids, I might be okay doing this. So, and as I began to grow, it became more loving for me. And I'm like, God, and even now, I'm like, God, thank you for choosing me for this position that you put me in. Because without you, even being young, I began nurturing my nephew. I began teaching him, showing him, like, all right, this is how we do it. Even though I did a little hood stuff with him, I mean, it was still, but still, I made it gangster for him, like, yo, what it is, what we doing, like that kind of thing. But I knew then, okay, and even with my children, God even showed me, even other people's kids, like before I even had kids, I would take other people's kids and say, hey, you come stay at my house, let's go. I would babysit. They'd be like, oh, you keep, sure, I keep them. And I know Troy probably saying, and he even told me, girl, you crazy, keeping all these people's kids. What are you doing? Like, you don't have no kids and you bow down with other people's kids because I understand when I see there is a need. If you're going through something, let me take the baby so you don't harm the baby because that's nurturing. Like, I want to be able to help where I can help. Even now, like, with my grandniece and nephew, like, anytime you need to keep me, hey, sure, I'm good. Even though I am tired, I'm like, God, she needs me, so I'm going to do this no matter what. And I tell God every morning, give me the strength to be able to help somebody's child. I even go into, like, the school, mentoring to the young girl, and I went to, just a short testimony, I went to a school here in Columbia, and when I got to the school, they partnered me up with 2 children, 2 young girls. And in the mix of me talking, I know one of them was kind of nonchalant, like, it is what it is, I don't even care, like, it is what it is. And I asked her, I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, it ain't nothing. I said, it's something because I can feel it, like, what's going on? And she began to talk, and as she talked, she started crying. I'm like, we're going to be 2 water buckets together, let's do it. And I said, okay, just come. So as I'm talking, so the teacher, the mom messaged the mentor, like the mentor program that's going through, say, I don't know what happened in that mentor session, but my daughter came home and talked to me. She never talked to me. She said she walked through the door and said, hey, Mom, can we talk? She said, I stopped and said, are you okay? You're good? You want to talk to me? She said, yes, I want to talk to you. She said, and she cried and told her, the reason why I don't talk to you because I don't feel you listen to me. Every time I tell you something, you kind of brush it off or you walk off or you don't want to say nothing or I'm busy, we'll talk later, and you never talk to me. She said she literally told me everything. She said, and I appreciate it. And I said, God, I thank you for letting me be there to help her open up to be able to talk to her mom. Because her mom said, this is what I've been longing for, but she would never do it. And when I want her to talk, she don't want to talk. And she always say, well, you don't ever want to talk to me, so I don't feel like talking to you. And she'll go in the room and close the door. She said, but this particular day, the first session, she came home and wanted to talk. So I told God, I said, God, I thank you for letting me be the one to plant a seed in a young child or a young girl to be able to want to be able to open up and talk. Because you know these days of time, they don't want to talk. They want to go out there and do whatever they want to do. Or, I hear you, but they still do what they want to do. They're out here killing, doing different things. So I told God, I said, God, I thank you for letting me be in a position to be able to hear your voice, to say what needs to be said to them so they can be able to go and teach other young girls. And even now, I went there the other day. I took Kaden, y'all. That did not go well. But it was, he was everywhere. I'm like, Kaden, stop. Kaden, no, leave the girl alone. So she's like, can I hold him? I said, yeah, you go. And he said, he just looked at her eyes. I said, I'm going to get you because get out that girl face. But she said, and she even, like, she was like, I thank you for bringing him. She said, because now I know I don't want no kids because he's doing a lot. I said, so that particular, because I was going to get a babysitter, but God said, no, take him with you. And I was like, okay, God. She said, because I always said, I want to have a baby. She said, and I was telling my boyfriend, like, you want to have a kid? And he was like, yeah, let's have a kid. And she said, that changed my mind because you brought him, and it's a lot going on. She said, I can't do that and try to do school. She said, and if I have to bring him to school, I can't get no work done because he's doing a lot. My child is doing a lot. I was like, God, I thank you. And that's one thing. You have to listen to the voice of God. When he tells you something, you make sure you do exactly what he said and don't do more than what he tells you not to do. So that's it.
Wow. That is amazing. That's good. Yeah.
Well, you say you wanted to hear our stories. And this is Dr. Cheryl's story, and this is how I go. Because some of y'all may not know, but I am a mother. I'm a mother of one. He is now 37 years old. However, but I remember acting like I was grown at 23, and like Mommy said, you lay, you play, you pay. And at that time, you know, like I said, once again, being the youngest of 14, I watched all of my siblings, you know, have children out of wedlock. And not that that's what I wanted to do. However, being that young one, I was always the one home to watch their children. You know, care for the kids. They still wanted to run in the streets. And, you know, when this happens, we have to realize as a role, it being a role, everything that concerns us have to be put on the back burner because now it has to be what concerns the child. And so with me, I'm going to try to tell us real quick, okay? So the night I decided to play, and I knew the next morning what had happened. And it was like a box just dropped on my head. I knew exactly what happened and that I was with child. And I knew exactly when the child was supposed to come into this world. However, my journey wasn't that joyful because I didn't want that to be. So I stayed in the face of God, making sure that the decisions I was making was still based on Scripture, knowing that I had done what I'd done, but I wasn't making decisions as to what was popular or convenient. I was making decisions as to, God, what do I do now? Okay, so I'm in the house, I'm pregnant. Nobody knew I was pregnant but me and God. The whole entire, my story, I got a girlfriend in Florida that would tell you this, and she's mad at me today because she had something to do with me going out that night when I ended up getting pregnant. I went the whole 9 months in my mother's house, pregnant as a bedbug. And I was praying to God, Lord, I don't want this. I don't want this. And he would have my stomach flat as a pancake during the day. I went to work every day of my pregnancy, but at night, big as a beach ball. Wow. I tell you no story. Every night, and I went the whole entire 9 months in my mama's house, in my mama's face, still eating at my mama's table, around my sisters and siblings. No one knew I was pregnant. I knew Ryan was going to come in this world February 8th, 1988. And the morning of February 8th, 1988, about 2 o'clock in the morning, the Lord woke me up. He said, okay, my child, this is the day. Having contractions. I'm like, okay, God, I understand. My mom, nobody knew I was pregnant. But this is the morning of. I said, God, I understand. He said, well, I'm just letting you know. Now, I ain't going to tell you how I fought them 9 months. Then said, Lord, if you take it, I promise you. I promise you. But anyway, this goes back to what you were saying. As I studied about this, all women are not chosen to be mothers, as you were saying. And we who were chosen, I know I was chosen, because when I got awakened that morning on February 8th, 1988, and the Lord said, okay, now this is the day, and you're going to have this child. I said, okay, God. Okay, God, okay. And the contraction came, then enough. And then he put me back to sleep. Now, my mom, mind you, at that time was working at the Tampa International Airport, had been working there for 40 years. And so she went to work at night. She did that 11 to 7 shift. And she come home in the morning just in time to make sure the children had breakfast and go to school. My mom came home that morning, and you know good and well I didn't want nothing to eat. Because I knew I had to go to the hospital later and have a baby. Nobody else knew that but me and God. And she came home and cooked the biggest breakfast. Oh, my goodness. And the routine was, all right, breakfast ready. We had to get to that table. Well, I'm like picking at my food, and I wanted her to go ahead and finish her plate. Because just as soon as she got away from that table, because she would go to sleep during the day because she worked at night. She got up from that table. I took that plate in the kitchen, and I went in the room, and I started talking to God. I said, okay, God, how are we going to do this? Because I knew it was Monday. I knew I had to go take the clothes to the laundry because it was Monday, and I had to go to the bank, right? So, okay, so she went to sleep. I left the house, pregnant as a bad boy. I did not pack any clothes. I went to the laundry, and I went to the bank because I knew I needed some money, probably to, borrow something on me because I took myself to the hospital. I drove myself to the hospital. I knew where the hospital was. Why? Because all my siblings had children that I had to go there and be there with them. I knew which floor I was supposed to be on and all of that. And so I drove myself to the hospital. It's about 1 o'clock. And I sat out in the emergency room parking lot in the car with the windows up. Because, heat is good for pain. Yeah, heat is good for pain, just in case you didn't know. But, yeah. And I sat there. I said, Lord said, okay, now, daughter. What I was doing was I was making sure I was totally dilated before I went up in that hospital. Mm-hmm. I knew how it was. So I said, okay. And that last contraction kick, he said, all right, get out the car. And I did. I got out, and I went in the hospital in the emergency room, and the lady said, may I help you? I said, yes, I'm in labor. She said, well, how far along? I said, 9 months. So she looking at me. And then it was this young lady in the waiting room. She was hollering and screaming and rolling on the floor. And I'm like, I'm going to need you to be quiet. It ain't helping my pain right now. I'm going to need you to be quiet, And so the lady said, okay. So she started taking my information. And I'm going to be honest with you, guys, because nobody knew I was pregnant but me and God. And I tell you no story the whole 9 months. My mom didn't even know I was at the hospital. I wasn't going to, I didn't plan to keep the child. So when I filled out my paperwork, I didn't put my home address on my paperwork. I put my business address on the paperwork at the job where I was working. I was working as a music instructor at the place where I learned how to play piano. And because I figured, I don't have to have any mail come to the house. But long story short, that wasn't God's plan. By the time they got me they took me on the wrong floor, really. They wasn't on the floor to deliver. They took me on the waiting room floor. And I said, ma'am, no, sweetie, I'm going to need you to put me on the delivery floor. That's why, and then you can set up whatever monitor you want. I don't care. Because at that point, I knew by the time they got me in the back, I was 10 plus centimeters dilated. So that was my plan. They literally had to break my water because I was I'm dilated. But I remember the lady say, you like to call somebody? No. You sure? Nope, I don't want to call anybody. 4:20, I remember looking at the clock. It was 4:17. They hooked up all the machines, and all I remember the lady said, push. And my son was here at 4:34. And then I heard the lady say, do such and such for pain. Well, I wasn't in any pain after that. Once he got here, but whatever it was, they put it in my IV, and I was knocked out. Whatever it was, and when I awakened, it was 8:30 in the evening. And the nurse say, Cheryl, you ready to go to your room? And I'm like, and who are you? Because whatever that medication was, it really did a number on me. She say, you're in the hospital. You had a baby earlier today. Oh, okay. All right, you ready to go to your room? Would you like to call somebody? So I didn't. I didn't call anybody. We went to my room, and then by the time I got there, I did call my mother. And she said, where you at? I said, well, you sitting down? Because she said, yeah, I'm sitting down. What you talking about? Well, I'm just letting you know, I had a baby earlier today. Sure, what you talking about? Yes, I had a baby. No, I'm not believing. Well, I tell you this much. I don't know what room I'm in, but you have to come and ask him my name, give him my name, and let him know that you're looking for me, and you can come see for yourself. And I remember laying on that bed, and I heard my mom flip-flops coming up that hallway. She clack. Oh, my goodness. And she stood in the doorway, and she just peeped. I'm like, why are you peeping around the corner? Coming. Cheryl, I'm not believing this. Well, my body telling me that I had a baby today. I say, it's around in the nursery. You can go in and say, baby boy Copeland, because I hadn't named him yet. But it was an interesting journey, and I tell people this story, and they don't believe it, but I went all 9 months. Nobody knew I was pregnant with me and God. And today, and when I pushed and I said I wasn't going to keep him, nobody knew that but me and God. But he kept hollering, and he wouldn't hush. And the midwife, she brought him and laid him on my stomach. And he instantly hushed.
Wow.
So that was the story of my knowing that I was chosen. Wow. I knew I was chosen because at that point, we haven't been disconnected ever since, 37 years later. And I thank God for the journey, because if I had made a fleshly decision to do what I had planned, then I wouldn't have the testimony I have today and the strong African-American black male that stands today and to tell you his story. Because you know they used to say, can't no woman raise no boy, can't no woman, but the devil is a lie. And I say that I'm grateful to have been chosen to help rear this young man, where I made decisions based on scripture, not what was popular or convenient.
Love it. Dr. Cheryl's story. I love it.
Ask her, did you ever go to the doctor or anything? But you didn't do
That's
anything.
a good question, Mom. I'm glad you asked. I did not. I didn't have any prenatal care. I didn't go to no doctor. I knew how to eat. Why? I told you earlier. All my siblings had children. So, but I knew what to do. No, I did not. I did not go to any doctor.
That's amazing. That's awesome. 9 months.
A whole 9 months. And I worked he was born on a Monday, so I worked all the way up until that Friday before the Monday he was born. And I had prepared my job, yes. I had prepared them that I'll be out for a couple of weeks or so. But every day I went in that house at night, I walk in, my bed is flat as a pancake. At night, while I'm in the bed, though, the Lord will have my stomach big as a beach ball.
Wow.
So when I tell people that story, they be like, man, my pregnancy wasn't like that. Well, we have different positions. We have different callings. Yeah. And I know today that I was chosen to be a mother. That's why I work in education today. I have to be somebody's, like Kawan say, we have to be someone's mentor, because these children go through so much they don't get some of the love that they need. And I'm talking a little 4-year-old. That's what they put me in the classroom today. Even they have to have nurturing. They don't understand how to communicate, so Lord put someone in their life to help them understand what they're trying to say. So I know I was called for this role, and I'm honored to have accepted it.
Awesome.
Let me get my little story out. Okay, so, you know what? I don't even know why, but when I be at home, I really have conversations. I ain't crazy, but I have conversations. And I'll have conversations and say stuff. And even and I'm gonna tell you this little piece, and I'm going to my story. Because I was in the house, and I'll be like, when's the last time you vacuumed? I said, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Like, oh my God. And I'll do stuff. But listen, I talked to my mama and everybody. Look, so anyway, when I was younger, I was like, my mom was a foster parent. She had her children, but she was a foster parent when we were living in Jersey. So she used to get foster kids. And for some reason, I was telling this story. Maybe I was dreaming, but I'm telling it again. But anyway, she was a foster parent, and she used to work night shift, and I would take care of the babies. I was in high school, and she didn't have at one point we had 2. It was my adoptive sister, and then another foster child that she had that we got from New York. But anyway, I had both of them, and I would keep them at night, and I would wash them and feed them and everything and put them to bed, all of this. And I was in high school, and I was in the part where, why I gotta be doing all these? These are not my kids. Why I gotta be taking care of them? But anyway, so I did it anyway. Well, whatever. So, but then it just prepared me for my children. And I love them. I love them dearly. I always loved them. I learned how to braid hair. I learned how to, take care of the babies and everything. So when I did have my first child, I was like, I had the baby, and my mom used to want to try to help me, but I would not let my mom do anything because I felt like I did this. This is my child. I'll take care of it. And she used to always say, Ann won't let you take care of her kids. No, I won't. I take care of, because I was in a place where I don't share. I don't share my children. They are mine. So no, you can't do it like I do it. You can't fix their hair like I fix it. You can't powder them and all of that. Now, we had a certain way that I put on their powder and their lotion and fix their hair, everything. And my mom, even like a time maybe I had to go somewhere or whatever, and she tried to do it, my older girls would tell her, my mama don't do it like that. But they were, and that's how I did. But that was my story. I took care of my babies, and I knew these were my babies. And I would go in the room with my baby, and I would hold my baby, and I would love my baby. This is mine. I wouldn't let, I wasn't married, so I wouldn't let the dad keep them. I wouldn't let his mom, no. My kids are not, I don't know what you're doing with my child. I don't know none of that kind of stuff. No, you're not going. So I just knew, and I'm to this part. I thought I wanted a boy. I'm glad I didn't have a boy. I had 4 girls. My grandson was my firstborn son. But I just loved my kids, and I loved the children. I guess that way it flew over to somebody, whatever, fixing hair and all this stuff. But I did. I felt like they were mine, and I had to take care of them. So that's just me. Still don't like sharing, but hey, they got married, they gone. What can I do? Oh, Lord. So now I share with their husbands and the grands and all that. Yeah, but if I could take them all home, I'd take them home. Yeah.
My auntie era began in 2020.
I'm screaming.
It was the She Summit. And funny enough, Apostle K did a raffle. And I was in law school at the time, so I was actually at home. And I remember PK reaching out to me. She's like, oh my gosh, like you won $1,000. I said, huh? Yeah. What? I got so excited for like 5 minutes, and then God said, give it to the kids. I said, what? I'm like, I didn't hear that right. I said, oh no. I said, huh? He was like, no, give it to the kids. And Apostle K actually told the story later on when she went to pick the first ticket. The ticket actually jumped out of her hand. Wow. And so she picked another one, and that one happened to be mine. I didn't even know the raffle existed. And so funny enough, I came to church that Sunday of the summit, and I went to Apostle K and I said, I want to donate the money to the children. Mm-hmm. And she was like, well, we gonna have you be a part of the children's ministry and everything like that. And since then, I was in the Genesis room watching the children when we go to different places when we were at Junction. Mm-hmm. I was in the room watching the kids, and at this point, I still don't have kids. I don't have any younger siblings, and I was like, Lord, I think 20-something at the time. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with these kids. So for me, I would say it really was a calling. Like it's something that God just gave to me. Of course I watched my mother growing up, but I don't know. I just knew how to do it. And then now you see me, I always have somebody's child on my hip. No matter who it is, whether it's my nephews or whoever, but for me, again, it really was a calling. And so I feel like motherhood, truly, it begins before you have your own children. It's something that God will give you. So even if you don't have that example in your life, the Holy Spirit will guide you. The Holy Spirit will give you exactly what you need. And God will also give you examples. I've learned from everybody up here. learning from our leaders. That's why, having a great covering is so important. Because, a lot of what I've learned is watching them. And then, like I said, God will give you the rest. But yeah, for me, that's kind of where my auntie era began, and I'm loving every minute of it.
So I guess I'll give my little story, and we'll get to the next topic. So for me, motherhood started. Of course, I have my children now. Funny thing is, I was a ordained youth pastor before I even had children. So in my mind at that time, I was thinking, okay, I don't even have kids, so why am I a youth pastor, So during that time or whatnot, me and Pastor Malley started working with the youth and whatnot, and that's when I'll say that's when it clicked, as in, okay, I started realizing, I guess because I'm still young, but even younger than I am now, at that time, I couldn't relate to them a lot, because I was just coming out of my teenage years. I had just got married at the time, and a lot of the things that the children would say that they would be like dealing with or going through, or there'll be sometimes they'll have conversations with us and tell us what they would be dealing with or whatnot, and I would say, hey, I dealt with that, I've been through that. So it's just like being a youth pastor, not saying well, I guess you can say that. Not saying I'm a mother to all of the children, but just being in that place to where being responsible for so many lives and young lives at that, it really makes you think, okay, I gotta, stay on top of what I'm supposed to be doing, because I'm responsible for young lives. Like, not saying that as pastors over adults it's nothing, less, but when you're a youth pastor and you're responsible for young souls, that's where everything starts. That's where life begins. So if you mishandle them while they're young, whatever's being poured or sown into them, they grow up with that. And that's why we have so many adults today that grow up with, strongholds or different things that they've been holding on to so long that it's hard for them to let go of it, because it started young, So just that, I'll say that was my first eye-opener, becoming a youth pastor. And then when I had my own children, I would say it intensified even the more. It's just like, okay, it was easy we come to church, I'm responsible for these children. When I go home, I'm free, No, now it's like, okay, the children in the church go with their families, but I got two little ones stuck to my tail. on my side, I got two little ones. So now it's like Tidra said, and I can very much relate to that now, especially with young babies. When you have children, it is no longer about you. It's not about, and not it's in a bad way, but now, I was telling my mom recently, I said, I now have to think for three people: me, my son, and my daughter. So it's like I gotta have a brain for me and two other people. So that's where youth pastoring is where motherhood kicked in for me. But having my own children was like, okay, not only am I responsible for these souls, but I'm responsible for the children that's now under my roof. So if I'm not doing right, it's going to show, because your children are, I guess you could say, a mirror reflection of who you are. So if you're not doing right at home and you not doing what you're supposed to do, your children are going to tell on you, whether it's right or it's wrong. I crack up. I don't know if you've ever seen those reels on social media that said kids would just say anything. Like, they'll be in the pool party and say something, my daddy, blah, 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 blah. Like, who asked you that question? And then nobody asked you that. Children would just say stuff. They just say things. So, like I said, motherhood really kicked in for me. Youth pastoring, but really with my own children. Like, okay, I really understand with children now being under my roof how important it is to make sure that I'm the right mother that I'm supposed to be for my children. So moving on, we're going to wrap up in a few minutes. I want to ask you guys, it was actually wonderful to hear everybody's stories. I love it. Beautiful stories of motherhood. So now that we've gotten through that part, my one more question. Well, I have two more questions, but it'll depend on how we answer this one. This question I have for you guys, being that it is World Changers Night, I wanted to kind of give like tips and pointers concerning motherhood, because I know it may be us talking about being at as World Changers. You know, it may be like a young mom or a single mom who maybe has a child or children and may not know what to do or, you know, how to raise their children. They may not, let's say, I know we've had examples growing up from our mothers, but what if it's a mom out there that probably didn't have an example, you know, and now they have their own children and they don't know, you know, what do I do? You know, what moves do I make? Maybe their mother probably wasn't even in their life. You know, I realized growing up that there are some children that grow up with just their fathers. Some children don't have their mothers in their lives. So what would you give, let's say if you were speaking to a young woman or woman of any age who maybe is single or married, either way, and they may not have the example or may not know what to do as far as raising their children. We know as far as, you know, going to God and make sure through prayer, but what are some like tips you would give that mother?
Kind of going back to what I was saying, I think that's why it's so important to have a good covering, to have that example of leaders that are showing you what to do in terms of parenthood, because you may not have that example. But I would also say that don't parent from your past. Don't let your past guide your future.
That's good.
Because I feel like a lot of times people sort of, Apostle Sean talks about it like revenge parenting, where your thought process is, I don't want my kids to go through what I did. And that's not a bad thing. It's certainly a good thing. But then your focus is on getting them material things that you never had.
Yeah.
That you miss out on, you know, teaching them and guiding them.
Yeah.
Not understanding that certainly not having your mother in your life, that was a part of your story. But where you are, you have the opportunity to be in your child's life. So now you have the opportunity to break that generational curse and be there in their life. And you don't need the mother figure necessarily, but God will guide you. So, of course, having the Holy Spirit is super important because God will show you exactly what you need to do. But I think sort of the first step in that one is, again, not parenting from the past, meaning you have to forgive your mother for not being there. That way you're not punishing your children for the trauma that you're going through.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. That's really good.
I'll also add, it's really an individual mother-to-mother case. It's a case-by-case situation. Prayerfully, that mother has the mindset that, okay, I have been put in this role, and I have to do whatever I have to do to make sure I'm right by this kid. Why? Because this child did not ask to be here, and they're innocent. They're depending totally on me. So I would say, remember that motherhood is not designed to give us life. It's actually designed to point us toward the life giver, who is God. So if you are in that place and you are feeling overwhelmed because you're in this role, we in God have to make sure that we actually seek God for whatever it is, whether you're young, whether you're middle-aged, or whether you're old, because they're having kids older these days too. But what I'm saying is I would just encourage them to understand, okay, once you've gotten to that place and understand this kid is lying here looking at you, waiting on you to do the next thing for them. We have to get self out of the way, like you said earlier, because it's not about us. It's about what these kids need to survive. And they're depending on us, the mother, the father, whomever, the godmother, whoever in their lives, grandmother, because in a lot of cases it's the grandmother, you know, to make sure we do the right thing by them so they can come up as best they could. So when they're out and about in society, they'll be able to function a little bit. So I would say just remember, motherhood is not designed to give us life, we got to make sure we take that role and point it toward the life giver.
That's good. I love it. Love it. Anyone else? Who else?
I would say it's just, and this is, I recently learned this, talk to your children, not at your children. And one of the things that helped me is when you read the Bible in Romans, it talks about people who have given their hearts over to reprobate. They don't believe in God. And one of the things it says, it lists their characteristics, but they come up with ways to do evil. So when I thought about that, it's like, okay, our children have seen a form of evil that we don't even know about. They come up with new ways. They're steadily inventing. And so when you talk to your children, they can tell you, okay, these are some of the pressures I'm dealing with. These are some of the things that are bothering me, because they can teach you something. I know me, one of the things my mother did, I always felt like you're talking at me, like it's nothing that I can say. You have to give, which we know there's nothing new under the sun, but that scripture just put it in perspective. Like, people are literally inventing ways of doing evil. So your children are facing things that we didn't face. And they can teach you something. They can show you something. And so to talk to them, to understand the pressures that they're in that you may not understand, it'll help them open up and trust you a lot more. And so when you're dealing with ways, oh, my child doesn't want to talk to me. They come in, they don't want to talk. That's probably one of the reasons. Because they don't feel like they're talking to you.
That's good. I love it. That's really good.
Wow, I look at this and I'm listening to the things that you guys are saying. And this part first was that if it's a person that, like you said, maybe they were a young child and they got into something and they came up and they were expecting and they had no training, they had no one, and they have no one that they feel like they can turn to even talk to, and they don't have leaders, they're not in church. They're out there and they're in a home, maybe a foster home or whatever. You know, it's just, like she said, it's all kind of different scenarios, different places that young girls may be into. And it's the part of, how can I reach this person? How can I reach this child? What way? And if they're in the mindset, like she said, hopefully they are, but if they're not, then what is this person gonna do to try to, you know, get to where they need to get some help? So I'm praying and hoping, from thinking this, that if there is someone that is in that place, that God somehow would lead them to someone that can help them, that can get them to a place where, and they would listen. Because, you know, they talk about a lot of different things, and we haven't gone through a lot because we're in Christ, or we grew up in a way. But they be talking about postpartum after you have a child. People are going through different things in their mind battles and all of this, and don't have the patience and don't have the nurturing and don't have anything that's really going to help this child. How are we going to get to this person? How are they going to get help when they don't even have no way, no how, no mindset, no anything to get someone to help them to come out of this? This is really, I was really sitting here thinking, there are people that really are in these situations. They may be homeless. They may be like abused in their home and they left home. Or they tried to talk to their parents, but they didn't understand and they put them out. You know, you see a lot of reels and a lot of things going on, where I saw one where the girl got pregnant. She was like, seemingly like she was maybe a freshman. And the mom was telling her, get out my face, I don't want to hear it. You know I already told you this, and put her out. What is she going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? If there is, they don't know where to turn. And even the grandmother was there. And when the grandmother found out what was going on, because it wasn't like in a lifestyle that maybe we lived in, but like, you know, maybe, I don't even want to say, but just saying, the grandmother said, oh no, and cursed her out and said, get out my face. You know better than this. What is she gonna do? It's really, oh my gosh, it's really rough for some people. And then to try to figure out, what am I gonna do? I don't know where to turn. And maybe they go through their pregnancy, don't know what to do during their pregnancy. They don't have anybody. I mean, it's just a lot. What are they gonna do? And then my thing was, oh my God, after that, and I'm trying to figure out, how are we going to help this person? How are we going to get to this person? Where is this person? Hopefully, maybe they're watching this right now. Hopefully, God will show them somebody, some MBOMI service that'll help them. But to really give to someone that's like, is in a service, in a church, and maybe they are expecting, and nobody knows, like Dr. Sherman, maybe nobody knows, and they don't know which way to turn. They don't know what to do. You can't get abortions now, which is not of God. Pray. Somehow, just keep praying. Go pray. If you don't even know how to pray, talk to, just say, oh my God, help me. I mean, help me. I need help. Cry out to somebody. See someone somewhere that looks like, maybe if you're on the street, there's somebody somewhere that's walking around saying, God loves you. Reach out. Like Kawan went to the schools. There's somebody somewhere. Talk. I mean, God has given you an avenue. He said there's always a way of escape. Talk to someone. There is help. There is help. Reach out. Just keep talking to what you don't even know you're talking to. But it's God touching you. Talk to him. There's help for you. There is help. Hold on. God will help you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay, so what I can say is, y'all, I'm trying not to cry because it's so much. To be honest, I was one time in a position to where I had just Lexi at that time, and I literally had nothing in my refrigerator or my freezer to give to my child to eat. We had nothing. I was working at a daycare center, and I don't like telling the story because it kind of hurts. I was at a daycare center working, and what I would do was I would take food from there to take home to make sure she ate. I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't do anything, I would make sure she ate. And then it was to a place to where I reached out, but the bank was closed. I can't help you. And I'm like, what? It's not like I'm coming for materialistic things. It's something that's going to help my child. So I began to do that, begin to make sure she eats before we leave the daycare. Make sure that I did pack things in the bag to make sure she can have something to eat. Like I said, I have testimonies after testimonies after testimonies after testimonies how God provided for me and my children. Even now, he's providing. And all I got to do is say, God, you already know. I don't even have to ask. And so what I would say is just keep the faith. Keep trusting that God is who he said he is. Keep knowing, go back to scripture because that's what I did. I said, God, you said I can have all things through you. I said, so you know me and my child need food. So I'm providing and waiting on you. I'm not going out here to beg, borrow, steal. I had to do all of that to make sure we had what we needed. Even as I began to have Talaya, and I kept telling God, you gave me these children for a reason. And I'm the type of person to where I'm like my mom. I don't put that burden on anybody else. Because I had these children, these are my children. I have to do what I'm supposed to do to make sure my children are safe. And I'm going to be honest, I don't like leaving my kids anywhere. Yeah, I need a break. But I don't like to leave my kids because I feel like, and this is me, and that's why I don't like to feel in my feelings. I always depend on God for everything. God, you show me who I need to let them go with. You show me to make sure that they're okay, for me to be comfortable with myself. Because like Pastor Keenan said, it's stuff that I dealt with in my childhood to make me feel the way I don't want my children out of my eyesight. Because this may go on, or this may happen, or this may be said to them, or they may feel uncomfortable. because that's what I dealt with. That's the things that happened to me. So I had to get into place to where, and just recent, I had to put in my family group chat that God told me, you still holding on to stuff, and there's stuff that's buried so deep that you didn't even remember because you just let it go. And he said, you cannot fully love your children and love yourself until you get rid of these things. So he had me in a position to where I couldn't talk on the phone, I couldn't do anything. All I had to do was just cry out. And I began that night, began praying, and he gave me things to call out. And when I call out those things, y'all, to be honest, and this is just a testimony that I'm going to tell later, but when I began to call out these things, I went to sleep. And when I dreamt what I dreamt, I'm like, God, really? Okay, God, I see this. So I would tell that person, that young mother, that older mother, that mother that's feeling overwhelmed, don't give up. Don't stop. Keep pushing. Pray. Seek God. Go to your word. The word is your guide, literally. He will tell you everything you need to be able to raise your children, because that's what I had to do. I had to go to the Bible. Okay, God, my child is acting out. How do I need to handle this situation? I'll pray, I'll fast, I'll seek him. He said, okay, go to this scripture. I said, okay, God, now, when you give me this scripture, give me knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the scripture, so when I go to my child, I can let them know, hey, I know how to handle them. So seek God, ask God, how do I need to handle these different situations? If it's a mother that just had a child and postpartum depression is here, to be honest, everybody deal with it. I'm gonna be honest, I dealt with it, but I didn't really deal with it because I had God. Ones who don't have God, who don't know God, like Mommy said, reach out, talk, ask, seek. If you don't feel you can do it, don't harm the child. Give the child up. Give him to someone until you feel that you're able to take care of yourself and that child. Because yeah, there are young mothers out here that's having kids young. And I'm looking at them like, I was one to where, like Dr. Shore said, I watch my siblings. And honey, when I tell you, I said, I ain't doing that. Because if I want to go somewhere, I don't want to have to try to find no babysitter. I don't want to have to try to be the one to say, oh, Mommy, can you? Because I already knew who my mama was. Nah, you did that. I ain't keeping nobody. You should have did that. But I had to learn by looking and seeing and seeking God. Like, just seek God. Like Mommy said, if you're watching this live, I don't know where we're at. If you're watching this live, seek God. Pray every night, every day, before you do anything. When I get up, before I even my feet hit the floor, I say, okay, God, I know what the enemy had going on throughout the night. I know he had his people out there warring. I know he had his people out there trying to put these little spells out for the people throughout the day. I said, but God, whatever has been done, I break it. I pull it, I uproot it, and I send it back. And I don't just send it back for it to be able to manifest even greater. I say, I lock it up. You keep it there. You don't let it manifest no bigger than what it was, because we're not fighting anymore. God, you said this is your earth. You want to give him a season to do what needs to be done. And when that season is up, y'all just don't understand the things God showed me in this season. And it was really dealing with mothers, children, young adults, parents, like we have in this time, because that's where the enemy is going. He know he can't do nothing with us now. We're grown, we're adults. He's going after the children. That's why the children is going through what they're going through. That's where we have to come in and step in it. All right, Satan, we see what you're doing. We see who you're going after. So now we're going after them too, to pull them back out of what you're putting them in. We're uprooting them. This is what we have to do. We have to start uprooting before we even put our feet on the floor, because we already know what they did throughout the night. Because I'm going to be honest, they stay up all night long. They don't sleep. And when God gives us that opportunity to wake up, that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be praying for that mother that's going through. We're supposed to be praying for that mother that is crying out and we don't know they're crying out. Just because of our prayer, we getting up in the middle of the night during those watch hours, that's going to set that parent free. So that's what I would just say. Just seek God. Pray to God. Don't give up. Keep pushing, because you got this.
And the final thing I would say, I think we can end it here. What I would say, to that mother is, of course, what everyone else said, but I would say to take time to heal. You know, sometimes we go through things that my children, in order for me to make sure that I stay in a place to where, you know, I have a little bit of time where I can take care of myself. I can, you know, be with me and God, still spend time with God. You know, if you got to get up early in the morning, I mean, super early, get up. You know, do what you have to do. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, then you will say, you know, most people say, oh, you know, I'm tired, I'm getting burnt out and all this type of stuff. I don't have time for me. But put a schedule in place. You know, get a schedule to where you put that time aside to where you know you can spend that time with you and God. Because as we said, God should be your first priority in parenthood and in motherhood. Make sure that you make God your top priority, and make sure that you're just keeping him first. And like I said, take time to heal. That's the main thing that kept coming up in my head. Just take time to actually heal. Make sure that, as Kawhi said, you aren't brushing those things to the side and just say, you know, well, I have children now, so I can't really focus on me. Take out that time to make sure that you're staying before God so he can show you what's in you. Okay, you got to, you know, get rid of this. You got to take this out. Or maybe you're in a good place where it's not really nothing within you, but God's saying, okay, now I'm building you up. You know, now I can build you in this area. Now I can build you in that area. So to make sure you take out that time at the start of every day. I like to do it at the start of every day, because once the children wake up, for me, it's over. It is over. If I don't spend time with the Lord and get myself together before the children wake up, it is over. It's not happening, because I'm not going to bed at the time that I want to go to bed. So make sure that you are taking out that time to spend with God. And like I said, take time to heal. Take time to dig into who you are as a person, so that you are well kept yourself, so that you can help well keep your children, if that makes sense. Because you will be only as good to your children as you are to yourself. So make sure that you're good to yourself and keeping yourself healthy and well, so that you are able to take care of your children in the manner that's needed. So, if no one has anything else, this was good. I had like everybody's stories and feedback, little nuggets and stuff. Good motherhood to the mothers. Can we clap for the mothers on the stage? Well, the mothers and the auntie. The mothers and the auntie. I love it. It was amazing tonight. I thank you guys so much for being a part and just sharing your wisdom and your knowledge as mothers. I believe that somebody, you know, even if it was just one person or one young person or older person, somebody was able to eat at this table on tonight and was able to get something good. Maybe it was a prayer that they've been praying and they were scrolling and saw this, and it was something that one of us said that helped them out. So I'm grateful for you guys, and grateful for you guys to be willing to be a part on tonight. So I hope you guys enjoyed the relaunch of Keepin It 100 podcast. Woo, 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 woo. Yes. This is the start of so many more. So make sure you stay tuned, as we will be keeping up the Keepin It 100 podcast this year and all the years to come. And stay tuned to MBOMI, all the things that we have going on. Make sure you follow all of our pages, all of our social handles, so that you don't miss anything. Also, I want to make another special announcement that World Changers are now relaunching our Facebook group as well. So, yeah, make sure that you go on Facebook and you search NBOMI World Changers, and there you will see the group. We are going to be doing a lot more devotionals and whatnot in the group, so make sure you're in there, you're joined. Once you click the button to join, our admin within the group will be sure to review your requests and add you to the group. So make sure that you are tuned in to everything NBOMI, so that you don't miss anything. So, because we are that church. We are that church. So Again, we thank you guys so much for tuning in on tonight. We pray and we hope that you have received something from this podcast. And until next time, we love you guys.
See y'all Sunday.
See you Sunday.